Welcome to another episode of No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am just hanging out here. My name is Tank.
Tank is the funny guy making fun of the movies in the theater, and everybody seems to love him for some reason. And I'm the quiet a-hole sitting in the back who just wanted to see why Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt are falling in love in space. For some reason, I feel like that was the perfect not Interstellar. I already forgot. Passengers. Passengers seems like the perfect movie in where you'd be the guy who's like ripping it a new one,
Yeah.
and I'm the guy who's legitimately like, look, I'm not liking it either, but can we just finish it,
Just
please?
be quiet. Just let me watch this
Please,
movie. Let me hate this movie in peace.
for
I get
real.
it. I get it.
Um,
So,
Tank, we had a trailer for this grouping of trailers, and it made me think of a question that I wanted to ask you. What type of film are you kind of sick of seeing? Like something that could be overplayed, like superhero films, for instance, though I don't think you and me are really getting tired of those. But, is there something that you keep seeing that you're just like, can we kind of space these out a bit?
well, much like video games right now, there's a lot of emphasis on zombie type stuff,
Oh, sure.
zombie and monsters. There's a lot of a lot of unseen menaces that you seem to like run into as well.
Mm,
So like think Quiet Place, think Bird Box, things like that.
sure.
It is a little one of the so Songbird starts off. So a lot of these trailers now. This is
Mm.
what they're doing. This is a trope in trailers that seems to be happening a lot right now. It starts off as a regular, like you're watching a love story, and then a
Yeah.
and then a minor piano key
I was
hits,
just about to say the ding, and then it's
bing,
like a
and then
black
uh,
screen, and then it cuts to
right,
like post-apocalyptic.
and then
It's
you
been
realize they're in love.
4 years.
Right. So now, you realize that they're in love across a desolate wasteland of nothingness,
Yeah.
and their love has to transcend all of that.
You keep
So
you're talking about Songbird, but it's so funny because we just talked a couple weeks ago about Love and Monsters or
love and
something.
monsters, yeah,
Same deal.
same thing. And there's a lot of these, and some are bigger budgets, and some are these lower independent movies that are coming out because there's
Right.
a lot of those since COVID happened. You're seeing a lot more of these
Creatively put together films.
independent movies
Yeah.
coming out because people are starved for entertainment. So these
Of
movies that
course.
would be ignored and cast to the $5.99 bin at Walmart, they are finding their way to mainstream. So it's kind of an interesting thing that's happening, and if we're just going to jump right into it and talking about Songbird, I actually think it looks pretty good.
Hmm.
I don't need the swerve on the I don't need the swerve on the trailer.
Where it's like it's all great, but
Right.
then.
And then you start and then you put an echo chamber on the song that started off. Like
Oh
because it
yeah,
starts
yeah,
off
yeah.
with by Bob Marley,
Yeah,
Songbirds,
yeah.
Three Little Birds. I'm
Don't
sorry.
worry
And then like, everything's
about a
like,
thing.
hey, I wish I could kiss you. And then
Yeah,
it's like, bong.
you know
And
what
then
it
all of a
is?
sudden, yeah.
You know what it is? It's the don't worry about a thing, cause every little thing, and then it's the shot of like the world and it's all destroyed, and then it's like it's gonna be all right, 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 right,
Right,
right.
exactly.
And you're like, ooh, spooky.
Now, the interesting part about this movie in particular is that it's not some zombie apocalypse. It's
No,
not accidental nuclear launch. It is the progression of where we literally are right now.
it's kind of crazy that this
It
movie's
really
happening
is.
now. I was kind of when I heard the premise of it, I was like, couldn't we wait a couple of years, please?
Yeah, no, for seriously, because it's like COVID-23 is
Yeah,
taking over, and it's like, oh shit.
and I think they
Yeah.
said it is like 4 years in progression. It's
Mm.
supposed to take place 4 years in the future, and it was like there was a billboard in the trailer that was like number of people that have died this year. And it was in like the 8 million, and I was like, no. I,
It's like The Purge meets In Time, or something
well,
like that.
yeah, I did like so. The creativity behind this movie, sure, I'm like, oh god, I really wish this didn't come out now. But there is some interesting creativity in the idea of like, how would we progress if it just got worse? So like the fact that people have to regularly check their temperature with their phone,
Mhm.
and if their temperature gives them a bad temperature, people come and bust down your door to take you away. I'm like, that's something that could be reasonably true.
I mean, you think about the
you
totalitarian
can get it.
nature of what it is, and honestly, you think about all the implications of the election coming up, and there's Walmart, for instance, is pulling their guns because of fears of social unrest.
Yeah.
So
Which,
I mean, things like that, like, and then coupled with what we've been going through now. Obviously, this movie was made early in the thing
oh, sure.
because, I mean, obviously things I wouldn't say have become normal, but things have progressed to closer to normal than this movie I think ever would have suspected.
Yes.
However, we won't get into it about whether it was the right move, the wrong move, what happened.
Sure,
We won't get
sure.
into that
I
because that's not
will.
this kind of podcast. But
Right.
this movie seems to be what's the word? It's like an indictment on the way it was handled in the beginning.
Well, yeah, so I think they even say it's like we are now in our 4th year of lockdown. I don't
Right.
think we've used the word lockdown to describe our situation for a couple of months now.
Right.
Like we're in quarantine, but even that's not
We're not in quarantine.
exactly.
Anymore.
Like it's the mindset like some people are quarantining, but I still see people going out pretty often on the weekends
Absolutely.
now. In this movie, it was as if like it was a lockdown and then it stayed a lockdown forever. You know what I mean?
But then it got like even more like where you would get in trouble for leaving kind of thing.
Right.
And we never got to that point. So it's an interesting perspective on where we might have gone.
Sure.
And what could be, and the way if things go wrong, the way they will be, kind of deal. But
maybe
all in all, it looks like an entertaining movie, and it's got Alexandra Daddario in it.
Yeah. It's got a couple of good names in it.
She can get it. You know what I mean? Like, so don't tell my wife.
You're a fan of True Detective. I know. It's okay.
Do like that scene a lot. She's also in Hall Pass.
Is she in Hall Pass?
She is in Hall Pass. She's the babysitter.
Oh.
Which is...
It's been a long time since I've seen Hall Pass.
Yeah, she was in San Andreas, which was terrible but great at the same time.
So it's funny that you started talking about Songbird because I kind of like was referencing our trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Songbird wasn't even the movie I was talking about.
Which one are you thinking about?
Stardust, which is another trailer we're going to be talking about. I'm kind of... Bohemian Rhapsody happened, and it was so big. And of course, like, for years we've had biopics about artists, and they've, made splashes. But Bohemian Rhapsody was so big.
Say Bohemian?
Bohemian. Bohemian Rhapsody was so big that I feel like immediately when it came out, they were like, hey, we're doing Rocket Man. Elton John,
right.
And I thought that was a little bit more, I would say, creative.
It was campy. Yeah.
Sure. And then now we're having Stardust, which is about David Bowie, and the actor, in my opinion, doesn't really look like David Bowie at all. Maybe a very, very young David Bowie.
No, not at all. Not even a young David Bowie.
When he had the hair, like David Bowie's hair, I was like, that
you feel like you put that hair on anybody and they're gonna look more like David Bowie than that guy.
Right.
Did.
I was like, he doesn't look right at all.
Yeah. And you don't have to obviously look exactly like the person.
Of course not.
But
to
get that,
the movie Solo did well with a guy who doesn't look like Harrison Ford, but he still made me believe he was Harrison Ford.
You just got to be able to suspend that disbelief, and this guy so far in the spots anyway has not done that for me. And it's a shame too because Mark Maron's in it.
Yeah.
And I think that movies like Bohemian Rhapsody, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head otherwise, but they set it up where the band is always sitting in a dark, smoky room with a record executive, and they're telling them how the record won't work. You know what I mean? Like that's just like one of those things that happens all the time now. Like nobody's gonna listen to Rebel, and it's like, okay, come on. You know what I mean?
And then
we already did this with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Exactly.
We did it with Johnny Cash. We did it,
But the thing is, we have done it before, but I feel like they've been spaced out more You know what I mean? And since
Absolutely.
Bohemian Rhapsody, it was like everybody's like, oh, we gotta get that market in now that that's a thing. So now we're gonna do Rocket Man. Now we're gonna do David Bowie. Yeah, Stardust. You know?
Well, here's the thing. The thing is that David Bowie has had such an interesting life that if you do it right, it could be very interesting. Now, here's the thing. Another thing about the movie is I get the sense that it's unauthorized because I didn't hear
Oh,
any David Bowie music in it in this
yeah.
trailer.
Good point. Good
So,
point.
when they do a movie that's unauthorized that doesn't have any of the music from the artist,
Yeah.
it's always bad. Andre 3000 did a Jimi Hendrix movie, and they didn't use any Jimi Hendrix music, and it's a damn shame because Andre 3000 makes a great Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it was unauthorized, I couldn't even watch it. I wouldn't even watch it because I refuse to watch a
Yeah.
movie where because then it begins to feel like a TV movie.
Well,
at that point.
then you just have to go to like, you got to think of the trailers. I was so excited for Bohemian Rhapsody when I saw the first trailer for Bohemian
Right.
Rhapsody, and
Absolutely.
same thing for Rocket Man, where it's like him starting to float up while playing Rocket Man and his audience floating around him. I was like, this movie's gonna be amazing. It's the music that makes it because why else are you telling the story? It's the artist that makes the music, so it's the music that's important. And if you don't have the music, what do you have?
I mean, that's 75% of it, and
it truly is.
I mean, think about Bohemian Rhapsody and the great job that Rami Malek did, and
So
the great job they did covering the songs with the help of the Canadian guy. I don't know his name, but they they did an incredible job on what is really hard to cover songs. And it seems, and I could be wrong. It's just that in the trailer, no.
I didn't. But
Bowie
that's the
songs.
thing. That's the thing. Why wouldn't you use a Bowie
You
song
would.
for that?
You absolutely would.
I
If
would
you had the rights to it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
absolutely
The
would.
first choice for a trailer about a David Bowie movie, I would say Ground Control to Major Tom and play that in the background.
Right.
I don't know.
Or I mean, like you got Ziggy. It's called Stardust. You know what I mean? It's just
right
it's
there.
one of those things where I obviously I'm a big detractor from this. I would say avoid it because it doesn't. Even though it's got Mark Maron in it, and Mark Maron's fantastic.
Right.
I just without the music, what's the point?
No.
Just like life, you know what I mean?
I
Like
completely agree.
So I didn't see the Tupac movie. I wish I had, but I didn't.
You know what was a really good one? Straight out of Compton.
Campton. Straight out of Campton. That's how they say in Wisconsin. Yeah. Hey guys, I want to go up to the Wisconsin Four and go see that new movie Straight out of Campton. I heard it's excellent. That's a perfect example of a really well done biopic. Now,
great.
A lot of because they always exaggerate stuff and things that aren't true and create like Dr. Dre is not the good guy that they portray him in these movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like there's like a lot. They take a lot of creative liberties, but that's a movie. And
exactly.
You gotta swallow that. You gotta go into that thinking that.
We were literally talking about this last week with your recommendation, Cadillac Records, where you were like, You have to realize if you're going into a movie, they don't want to necessarily make their main characters as unlikable as they kind of were in real life. And they got to make things movie,
Absolutely.
They got to make a movie, and they got to skip around or tweak some things.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people laying around their house that they're not going to show you.
Yeah,
they're just going to give you the highlights, and sometimes the highlights aren't glossy enough, so they're going to gloss them up, and that's fine. You just have to. I just say go into it thinking that, and much like Disney, when they give you their warning, just know that, and we don't have to change old movies that are done. We don't have to just let people know, look, hey, this is what you're getting when you're going into this. So that's how I feel about it.
Our next trailer is one that you recommended. We got two that you recommended to me that I didn't even see, but I'm gonna start with the one that is less interesting to me.
Okay.
Which is News of the World. It still looks good in my opinion, mainly because it's Tom Hanks in a Western, and that really sold me immediately. However, I do feel like it's a story we've seen many times before.
It's I don't know, man. I feel like it's almost a propaganda film because of the
Really?
attack that the media has been under for the last 5-6 years.
Because he's essentially a newsman.
Yes,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
I feel like it's that, and it is interesting. While it is interesting to see a story from the West where the person's not a cowboy, because
Yes.
a lot of times we forget that that's not a thing.
Hmm.
Like a very, 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 very small percentage of
Small
people
people
were
were
gunslingers.
outlaws. Yeah.
Everybody else was farmers and newspapermen and shopkeepers and things like that.
And
Um,
honestly, his profession of go to town and just read the news to people is really interesting to me.
yeah, he's Walter Cronkite Sr. in this movie. So no, I'm kidding. Um,
Man, I didn't realize. Never mind.
so yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing, and you realize from that um, he's a guy that at a time when not everybody could read.
Yeah, and we should say this trailer. The reason why I say it's a story we've seen many times before is because he finds a this part I thought was interesting. It's a little white girl who I guess her family was killed. She was taken in by Native Americans, and now she believes she is Native American. She's lived
Hmm.
with them for like 6 years or something, and he finds her, and he kind of takes her in and basically becomes like a surrogate father. And the movie is cute with him like teaching her English words and stuff like that. And like I said, I feel like I've seen that story many times before, but I'd probably still watch it because it's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it was called Dances with Wolves, and then it was called Avatar, and
I don't know
yeah,
what you're
no,
talking about.
yeah, no, it's Tom Hanks, but to me it's one of those pardon the brashness of the wording, but old people movies. I saw Jersey Boys at the theater, which was a
Mhm.
great movie, but that's where they emptied out the nursing homes. You know what I mean? Like that's so this is going to be one of those types of movies, I believe, where it's for the old people.
The older generation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but like you, I'd still watch it. Just it's Tom Hanks. So
Sure. Yeah. The other one that you recommended to me, which God blew me away, this
mhm.
trailer, Embattled, which I, in stark contrast of the last one, I don't think I've ever seen a story quite like this.
Yeah. It looks incredible. I so Stephen Dorff, probably best known for not being Johnny Depp, um, is in this movie as a Conor McGregor esque fighter.
Yeah.
He's got the beard, he's got the tattoos, he's got the brashness, and much like people who've achieved a lot, left his family in the background, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got an 18-year-old son who's starting to pick up fighting, and um, you know, there's a lot of friction
Wrong.
between the two.
Yeah. Wrong parenting done.
Yes, absolutely,
More
and
more of a rough trainer than a father.
right. And this trailer kind of highlights that, and then
Mm-hmm.
it culminates in saying that these two are going to end up fighting each other,
Yeah. Which.
and
Yeah. It looks
and
so
and
good.
and we're not even doing it justice
No,
because
we're
the
not.
trailer, because a lot of MMA, so like there's like two different classes, ironically weight classes of MMA movies.
Right.
You got the cheesy ones, like Never Back Down, which was the Orlando, Florida high school backyard MMA society. Um, and then you've got a movie like Warrior,
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
which is Tom Hardy and another guy whose name escapes me. Frank Grillo's in it, and it's a fantastic movie with lots of great acting performances and
What was the one with
the fighting.
What was the one with Jake Gyllenhaal?
That was a boxing movie called
Oh,
Southpaw.
that's what I'm thinking of. Sorry. I when you said Warrior, for some reason I thought of Southpaw, but I've also seen
Same
Warrior.
thing though. But like
That
there's
realism to it,
right.
the grittiness.
So there's another one called Red Belt.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Okay, nobody's seen this because it's not.
Okay.
It wasn't like a big budget movie, but this is your prototypical. Not a ton of action, but the fighting is kind of the centerpiece of it.
Mm.
I can't say this guy's name. Shiro Ejiofor.
I will
She
look it
would
up
she
and
would
judge you.
Tim Allen is in it.
You
So
can say that name.
what it basically is um
Oh,
Ejiofor
yeah.
is yeah, can you say it?
Chiwetel
Yeah,
Ejiofor.
I can't say, I don't know what
I
it
think you
is.
got his last name correct. It's hard to say, and it's sad because I see him in so much, and I'm like,
He's
I
been in a ton of
love
movies.
that guy.
He's a great actor.
I was introduced to him from the Firefly movie Serenity, and I was like, this guy's incredible. I want to see him in more things, and then I saw him in everything after
What
that.
else has he been in? Like he's been in so
Doctor
much.
Strange. He's Mordo.
Okay, perfect. So
That's the most recognizable thing for him. I would say
so
right now.
the story basically is this: he is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, who is a veteran, a war veteran,
Okay.
and he marries the daughter of Brazil's most accomplished jiu-jitsu practitioner. So Hoist Gracie. So just picture Hoist Gracie,
Right.
who he marries his daughter. You know,
Okay.
basically the princess of Brazil. But when he comes back from the war, he starts a dojo. It's not super successful. You know what I mean? It's barely
Right.
making ends meet. And one night he teaches cops, a lot of cops jujitsu,
Hmm.
and he gets them, side work with his brothers-in-law who own a nightclub.
Hmm.
And turns out these guys haven't been paying the cops, the guys for helping them. They haven't been giving them money.
Oh, okay.
So he goes to go talk to him, and Tim Allen plays an actor, a big time like action star guy, and he happens to be at the bar, and he starts to pick a fight because he's an asshole and he wants to get into a fight, and Ejiofor defends him, and so they strike up a friendship, and then Tim Allen fills his head with all these ideas that he's going to be this big movie star consultant guy, and look, we can talk about this movie for an hour.
I was gonna say,
I
please give me the rest of the synopsis.
not to give too much away or anything like that, but it culminates in a fighting tournament, and it's awesome. It's
very good,
dramatic, and the fighting is super authentic for Brazilian jiu-jitsu
Oh,
type of stuff. So it's not like sexy big punch fighting. It's real judo and grappling and things like that. And it's interesting. It's really good. So I recommend that movie. Red Belt but that's kind of what I'm talking about. And this movie has that vibe
right.
to bring it back to Embattled, where everything feels authentic.
Yes.
And not cheap action, driven. And I'm not above a cheap action movie. I'm really not. I'll tell you that from the get.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not bashing those. I'm just saying that this has more emotional elements attached to it, and it looks great.
Yeah, when I watched the trailer, I was like, "Oh, it's like Honey Boy, but with MMA fighting."
Right.
And and honestly, this looks way more interesting than Honey Boy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like honestly, that end line with like them doing the like the press before the fight or whatever, and his father's like, every 18-year-old deserves to get his ass kicked in or something. And he's like, he's been telling me that since I was 3. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so good.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too.
So we'll hopefully, we don't know when that's released or anything, but hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. I would love to talk about that on this podcast. But our last trailer is The Midnight Sky. It's gonna be another Netflix film. You were kind of iffy on this one, huh?
I like George Clooney.
I love George Clooney.
I everybody else in it seemed to have a fine supporting cast. Looks really nice. You know what I mean? It's just I'm kind of done with that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's.
To take it back to News of the World, this is definitely another movie we've seen before.
Yeah.
I was getting real like what was it, Day After Tomorrow, like survival, wild in the wilderness kind of vibes, where it's like it's a race against the clock. It's a man who's just got to do it, and it's his partner sidekick.
Yeah. But for some reason, instead of leaving his 13-year-old daughter in the warm base, he felt like he should take her with
Yeah,
him.
she's coming with him, which I promise you in the movie they have some line about like, no, you can't come with me. This is something I gotta do. I'm coming with you. And then he says, well, okay. And then that's
Whatever
it.
you say, because I'm an adult and you're in charge
Yeah.
somehow. No,
Um,
I'm done with that, and I
totally.
feel like you know,
It is definitely a film we've seen before. I really like George Clooney, and I'll just like News of the World. I'll watch it for Tom Hanks, and I'll watch this for George Clooney. Which I think the most interesting thing is I don't know how many films George Clooney's directed, but this film's directed by George Clooney.
oh, I see, I didn't know that.
See, that also kind of makes me more interested in watching it because I want to see what the camera does with when he's behind it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think there is a specialty when you can direct a film and also star in it because you're like, well, this is exactly what I know I want to do, and hopefully it looks the way that I want it to look. So, I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and since it's on Netflix, I'll for sure check it out.
Of course, I think after you saw the trailer, the first thing you said was, "God, Netflix keeps just cranking out films, don't they?"
They're a machine.
They really are. All right, well, that's gonna do it for trailers. What do you say we get into some news?
Love it.
So our first news story today is gonna be James Gunn has said that he was actually planning on doing a Superman film before doing the Suicide Squad film. Like he was in talks to do a Superman film, and all I could think was, what would that even look like? Like, could you imagine James Gunn doing a Superman movie?
I mean, kinda. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty awesome.
Well, I'm thinking so too because I'm imagining he had a vision for what he would want to do with the character, which I don't think many people do have a vision for what to do with the character.
See, yeah, it's the thing. It's like it's so Superman is so generic.
He's boring.
You know what I mean? Like Batman's
love
very
him.
specific. His aesthetic is dark
Mm-hmm.
and gritty, and that's easy to accomplish because you just make things dirty. You know what I mean? And that's like,
Right.
there you go. Superman doesn't have that aesthetic, and his story is interesting, but it's also not like tragic.
Mm-mm.
I mean that's kind
I mean,
of
it is, but there's something to Superman's story when I always had this thing where I was like, I feel like Superman can feel the whole I'm alone in the world because I'm the only one of my kind, but he also can't be upset because his whole planet was blown up because he didn't remember it happening.
Right, he didn't
because
know
he was a
anybody there.
baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as far as Superman knows, he should just feel different, but not necessarily alone.
Right.
But again, I'm not Superman. I don't know what he's feeling. But
It's
you
just,
know what I mean?
it just feels like any darkness that they add to Superman is just to try to sell a movie ticket.
Sure.
You know what
I mean,
mean?
how many films have come out recently or ideas that have come out recently where they went, what if Superman was a bad guy?
It's Homelander. You know what I mean? You got Homelander.
Like Homelander, they had that one horror film that came out not too long ago where it was the exact same story of Superman, but it was like a little kid who is a psychopath, and I'm like,
It's like Bright Flash.
yeah,
or something like that.
Brightburn, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And it's like I've seen this before. I've heard this story, and it's just to sell tickets where it's like, oh, tale as old as time, but with a little twist. We've
Yeah,
seen.
and I don't know. You just who do you get to play Superman? Because I don't feel like anybody's ever gotten it right.
No?
No, not even Christopher Reeve.
How dare? I think Christopher Reeves
Yeah,
was
I mean,
perfect.
forgive me because
Well, of course, the
God is his
movies.
soul and everything, but
But of course the movies were like campy back then, but I think that's more of the perfect style of Superman. Like, do you know what movie I really enjoyed? I actually really enjoyed Superman Returns. And I think it's because as ridiculous as that movie was, I think it got the aesthetic right of Superman. That movie looks like a Superman comic. Even to the point where the ridiculous plan hatched by Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, which was also a really great casting, even though it was Kevin Spacey. His ridiculous plan
Who?
was I don't know. His ridiculous plan was, how about I make an island with a thing of kryptonite and a chemical that will make the material become as big as an island, and then lead Superman to it. And I'm like, this sounds like a Superman plot, and it's
It also sounds like Jeffrey Epstein's plan.
okay. All right. Okay. Who? But you know what I mean. Like that movie, as bad as it was kind of a perfect Superman movie. And I feel like if you take aesthetic and comic booky and put it together, you get something special. And I think James Gunn could do that easily. Now, if he was going to do it for the DC EU that kind of exists and doesn't exist at the same time, I wouldn't mind Henry Cavill playing Superman again, because honestly I think he's fine, and he's a guy who can clearly have fun, so I'm like, put him in a fun version of Superman instead of the Man of Steel that we got, which I like that movie too, but there's no fun in that movie.
Here's how I like my Superman, as a side character in a Batman movie. the angel on his shoulder trying to get him to do the right thing.
Did you ever see The Dark Knight Returns, the animated film? Do you remember the first time they show Superman in that movie? And he's just Clark Kent showing up, like, he went like horseback riding or something with Bruce Wayne. The first moment they show him in that movie, he's like standing on a rock with his chest super far out, and an eagle flies and lands on his arm. A bald eagle. And I'm like, that's Superman.
That's Superman, right. But how boring is that, though?
It's super boring. But the thing is, I feel like they put that in that movie to be like, that's Superman. Like, you can laugh at it.
I get it. And to be fair, the DC animated universe, I love all those Superman movies, and I love his character. I loved him in the animated Justice Leagues and the Young Justices and things like that.
So if you like him in that, what do you think they could pull from that and make into a live action film?
I think that's just because he's part of an ensemble and not the main thing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, I will,
and this is to kind of your point, I think some of the best Superman we've ever seen in the DCEU was in Justice League.
Well, definitely, absolutely, and and when he showed up against Steppenwolf, you're like, oh shit, you in trouble
exactly,
now,
like,
buddy.
You've
You've been fighting these JV son bitches now.
Now
Varsity's here. You're in trouble.
Exactly, and he does the whole like, I stand for truth. I also stand for justice, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, right. So,
and then like he's overstepping Flash by like Flash pushing that car of survivors, and he looks over and it's Superman carrying a whole apartment building over him. I'm like, man, they got Superman right in this movie.
Absolutely, and he's just showing everybody up, and that's so I guess to that point, I like him as an ensemble. I can't get with him as the star.
I get that. And you know what? That's probably where he needs to be. Maybe we'll actually get even more good Superman when Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Or they're going to take out all of his fun bits because it's Zack Snyder.
Who knows? It's be all gray and hard to see.
Yeah. So kind of talking about lower tier DC characters, I did want to talk briefly about the fact that Michael B. Jordan is set to produce a Static Shock film. Do you know Static Shock?
I know Static Shock through one of the cartoons, right?
I watched his cartoon.
Yeah,
that was in, I can't even remember either the 90s or the early 2000s, but that cartoon is awesome, and that's how I knew Static Shock. And I've been saying for years I would love to see like a live action Static Shock.
Yeah, Michael he's not in it, he's just producing it.
They just have him listed as a producer, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was in it.
Well, I feel like Static Shock is younger, though.
He does have to be a younger character, though. I believe he's in high school. In the cartoon, I think he's in like late middle school. But
yeah, he's really young in the cartoon.
In the comics, I believe he's in high school. But he's a freaking amazing character. And I feel like with Michael B. Jordan at the helm, I mean, he's one of the main reasons Black Panther did so well. So I think you'll be able to have somewhat of a success with his mind behind it. He's also, a side note, not even a part of DC. He's also set to direct Creed 3.
Really?
Yeah, that came out the other day too. He's gonna be directing Creed 3. And I'm like, damn, Michael B. Jordan's getting work, and I love it.
I got money on Rocky dying in Creed 3.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because
I thought he was gonna die in Creed 2.
Creed 2, the end of Creed 2, at the end of the fight, when he fist bumps him, that's him transferring the franchise to him. The way did you see the rundown with The Rock?
I don't think I did.
With Sean William Scott and The Rock, the rundown. You didn't see that movie?
Wait, Sean William Scott.
When they're in the jungle and they have to find the treasure.
Oh yeah, I have seen that movie. Wait a minute, I'm looking up the poster.
At the beginning of that movie, The Rock has to go to a club to collect money from some guy, and as he's walking in the club, he passes Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "Have fun." To me, and that was Arnold Schwarzenegger passing the action hero torch.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, and I totally see what you mean with the fist bump.
And that's what. And not even, it wasn't just the fist bump. Where Rocky says, "This is your time now."
Yeah. He even says that like in the trailer, and I think when the trailer came out, you and me were saying, "Well, we know what that means."
Yeah. So we did think he was going to die in the last one, but I hope. Here's the thing. I hope they never kill off Rocky. Like, I know that he's like, it doesn't. I don't think it has to be something that you have to do in the movies.
Sure. Would you rather just like kind of, because I feel like he does need a send off in some way, kind of like how like with Princess Leia in the last Star Wars movie after Carrie Fisher died. I think there was a huge outcry and saying, just try to find a way where she doesn't have to die in the movies and just like pass her character on. Say she went to a planet in search of something, or and we just will never see her again. To kind of be respectful, I thought they were saying, but clearly that's a different set of circumstances. But in this case, I get what you're saying, where it's like he doesn't have to die, but I do think he needs a send off. It can't be like, I might see you again one day.
He got that when he went to go live with his son.
That's true. Yeah.
At the end of the movie, he goes and he moves in with his son, and I think that it's okay to let your mind just think that he's going to live out the rest of his days with his grandson and his son. And
I can see that.
You do, because if they make 2 more of these movies, let's say optimistically, they're not going to make 3 more. They're not going to continue it like they did with Rocky.
No.
But if they make 2 more, you got to think those are going to be 7 years.
I know apart. Exactly where you're going with this. You're saying if Sylvester Stallone dies in real life, then you could hint at it in the film as kind of like him just going to a funeral.
Or you're going to have to assume that at some point a guy who was a boxer and got beat up a lot is not going to live into his 110s.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the guy's going to die eventually. So, I mean, eventually maybe it would be something to address and it would be like a good plot point. But at the same time, I feel like Rocky deserves better than that.
I totally get that. And honestly, I'm on your side where I'm like, yeah, maybe you should just like live out the rest of his days.
That's what he should do.
Living happily where he because we've already seen his journey on terms of a character development, not only through all of the original films, but now also in the Creed films. I totally get that. Where it's like, all right, he's had his story told. We don't need him to keep making cameos. He can rest.
Exactly. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to fight anymore.
Right.
And that's even in the later movies, like it's, he lost his wife and he never really got to be happy. Even when he had all the money and stuff like that, he had to fight Drago, and then he lost all of his money, and then so let the man have some joy. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I don't know how we got here from Static Shock, but
because we were talking about Michael B. Jordan and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it's like his character's been through so much that I think the last thing we need is to know that his character died. I
Right.
think everybody can just be happy to know that right now, somewhere out there, Rocky's happy.
Yeah, he sold his Italian restaurant. He bought a little apartment in Montreal by his kid, and they see each other every day. And he plays with his grandson, and he gets to live a happy life. And that's the
Yeah,
end of it.
and I
And
like
then
that.
and Creed's out there doing his thing, and every once in a while, Creed will call Rocky and just to check on him. But we
Yeah,
don't have to see that.
no,
We just know that he does it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's sweet. But Michael
Yeah.
B. Jordan, Static Shock film, and him directing Creed, since we can make this a twofer for the news thing. I'm excited for both.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Here's my problem with Static Shock.
Hmm.
People with electric powers, kind of boring.
In the TV show, they made it interesting.
This is a cartoon.
Sure. What do you mean though? Have you seen what was the last live action?
Black Lightning was terrible.
What was the last live action movie with somebody with
Electro.
crap?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's got that floating skateboard thing that he uses to magnetize so he flies around. So at least like you could interpret that into the fighting at least and have some fun with it.
And we're in a new generation of the way actually comic book movies are made. So there's a good chance that they get it right.
I'm sure it'll be creative to where the powers won't get boring.
I hope so.
You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Okay, so I'm just gonna skip these last two news things because I really want to talk about our main topic today, and I know you want to talk about it too. And this is something I would like to keep up every single week until it's over. Does that sound good with you?
I thought you were going to say until one of us dies, but yeah.
Until one of us dies. We could attempt that too. I think that'll take longer. But first, before we get into our talk about Mandalorian season 2, we're gonna give you our recommendations so we can talk about spoilers just in case you haven't seen episode 1 yet. So, Tank, what is your recommendation for us today?
Okay, so it's a weird one. And
Red Belt.
No, but I do recommend that.
He gave us the synopsis.
It was fantastic. My recommendation is a long canceled one season TV show on NBC called Go On.
Go On.
Go On with Chandler Bing, who is Matthew Perry. Is that right?
Yes, Matthew Perry.
So it is a show about a guy who lost his wife and joins a self-help group, and it's full of incredibly funny characters. It was very original, super funny, very sweet. It's on the NBC app. So you can watch all the episodes for free on the NBC app. There's 22 episodes. It's one season. That's all it made it. My wife and I are almost done with the entire first season. I watched it when it came out in 2012.
This has a really good cast.
It really does, and it's very funny.
I was also going to say, and I think this is just a problem with, network TV shows all the time. But this show on IMDb, which is normally harsher with its ratings, has a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
which is not bad.
It was a good show. It had a lot of heart. It gives me real Scrubs vibes, and I don't know why it didn't make it. Probably a lot to produce. Probably didn't get great ratings. But we live in a great time where we can access things that are gone. So I say
it's true. Check it out.
The NBC app. I have a smart TV, and it was free to download the app on my TV, and it's free to watch the show. So Go On is my recommendation.
All right, Go On. Very interesting. That came out of nowhere. Mine is something that so I haven't seen before before this episode. I had not seen either of these movies, but I have friends who were like, just watch them while you have time. And because of my new responsibilities at work, I have a lot of time to watch stuff. So so I watched Frozen 1 and Frozen 2.
Oh, let it go.
I know. So I already knew the plot of Frozen 1, so I really just did not care to watch it. But I remember when the trailer came out for Frozen 2, I said, hey, that actually looks like it has a plot, like a good plot. and I never saw that either. And all my friends were telling me, hey, it does have a plot, a really, really good plot. You should watch it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to watch Frozen 1 first, just in case there's anything I'm missing. Frozen 1, actually worse than I thought it was. So,
really?
Yeah, I really don't like Frozen 1.
Interesting.
The best song in that movie is Let It Go, and I know everybody's sick of it, but arguably it is a good song.
Sure.
But that's about it. They have a lot of problems in that movie. I know a lot of people love that film, and that's fine. I just was noticing a lot of Let It Go is a song about Elsa, finally being able to be herself and use her ice powers and not have to worry about what other people think. She, in the video for the song, is climbing a mountain, very sad. She uses her powers once, and then it's all smiles for the rest of the song. I was like, that was a huge 180! There's a lot of itty bitty things.
Okay.
Olaf,
right.
Josh Gad's Olaf is legitimately funny, and I think Han's twist is really good too. If you haven't seen Frozen, there's a twist with that character, and it's really good. Frozen 2 is my recommendation because it's a really good movie. They kind of threw out some characterization for Anna. They kind of made her stupid. That's really my one critique of the film. They kind of made her crazy out of nowhere, which wasn't her character at all in the last movie. But then the entire rest of the film is really cool locales and beautiful visuals. The animation's really good on the film. It deals with elemental spirits, so fire, wind, water, and earth are constantly moving and changing while the film is going on. The music, the reason why I watched the films to begin with is because my buddy was like, hey, every song in Frozen 2 is better than Let It Go. And I said, that's a pretty high
Bold
bar.
claim, yeah.
So, all right, challenge accepted. 100% true. With the exception of one song, because like I said, Anna, they kind of threw her aside. She has a song towards the end of the movie that doesn't mean anything. It's a pointless song. But other than that, the entire film is very enjoyable to watch, very interesting, very heartfelt, and made a couple of twists and turns that I didn't see coming for a Disney film. And I just think it's a really special movie, and the music's awesome. And it's funny, too, because I was like, most people have to agree with me on this. Our buddy Justin, who we do the video game podcast with, I mentioned it to him, and he goes, oh yeah, Frozen 2. Not nearly as good as Frozen 1, though. I was like, what are you talking about? Do you know what his response was? They kind of went overboard on the music.
Oh, wow.
I was like, yeah, that's what made it better.
Talk about a guy who doesn't get it.
He doesn't. For real. But yeah, Frozen 2 is my recommendation. As a weird recommendation as it is, I think it's honestly a really good movie.
Haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out.
I think you'll enjoy it, honestly. But all right, now that we got our recommendations out of the way, I would like to talk about something that we're going to be keeping up for every new episode of The Mandalorian. We're going to be talking about episode 1 that just premiered today, actually, as we're recording this.
Technically episode 9.
Which is chapter 9, as they label it. But season 2, episode 1, chapter 9, so good. We are going to be talking about spoilers, so if you have not watched The Mandalorian, go watch it. It's an hour long, and then come back and listen to this, because I think me and Tank both thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, all right, here we go. Spoilers, ahoy. Tank is aho. Tank, what'd you think of this episode?
Well, first and foremost, you gotta love the show, because it's so good, and it's the best space show and the best Western I think I've ever seen.
I was really gonna say this episode in particular. They went, yeah, we had a real Western vibe with our last season. Let's turn that up to the 9s in this episode.
Exactly. And it was basically space justified.
I was
with Timothy Oliphant and all.
When he removed his helmet,
Yeah.
I was like,
I knew it was him. When
well,
I
I
heard his
knew it was
voice,
him.
I knew it was
I
him.
knew his voice when he started talking, but I was like, that sounds like Timothy Olyphant. When he removed his helmet, I was like, Tanks is gonna say this is space justified. I
Yeah.
straight up said that while I was watching it.
And you know what's funny is like he's got that gait when he walks and shows like this and Justified and also Deadwood, one of the great Western TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
And when he was standing in the doorway of the saloon,
Oh yeah.
dude, that's just such a great Western scene. And um, man, it was so good. And I'm so glad that they turned out to work together.
Yeah.
And just he turned out to be such a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mandalorian is a badass. And just
dude, when he started speaking Tusken Raider to the
Yeah.
Sand People, I was like, who is this man?
he's a badass.
And that truly was also like, talk about heavy-handed Western vibes. Tusken Raiders are clearly supposed to be Native Americans, and then, you know, the settlement is taking land, and they deal with all of that stuff in this episode. And I'm like, God, they really did a good job with this. I'm really happy they didn't overplay Baby Yoda, because
Absolutely.
because the entire last season is about Baby Yoda. It even ends with them going, we have to find his family. And that's where the show takes off from. But the episode is not about Baby Yoda. He's in the background for most of it. Right. And I thought that was really great, because as much as he is a internet sensation, you got to give the other characters time to shine.
Absolutely.
And man, was this an episode for everybody to shine.
And I'm not into dudes. If you're into dudes, that's cool. But
Timothy Olyphant.
Timothy Olyphant is that's a good looking man. I'm not gonna lie.
Are you and me the same person?
Maybe
I was watching it and I was like, damn, he looks really good.
I said to myself, how does this son of a bitch keep getting better looking?
He's getting older.
He's getting older, and he was like gray. He had gray hair and a gray beard.
Yeah,
and he looked like $1 million.
His hair and his beard were like, how does that look so good?
It looks so, and he just pulled the helmet off, and he's just cool. Like he just reminds me of when he was in The Office as Danny Cordray.
Yeah.
And you know what would be funny is if somebody who has better editing skills than me have him take the helmet off and then cut to the scene where Kelly goes, "Oh bleep,"
oh yeah,
or no, she goes, "Bleep me." You know what I mean? Like
I'll work on it.
You do it, because I don't know how to do it, but that would be so funny. And his cool that he has, he was basically just this Justified character this whole movie.
I mean, I will say he kind of lost it with the whole Tusken Raiders thing. Do you remember that? Like when he was at their camp with them, because he's supposed to be playing the marshal who's not comfortable with these people. Like that's the role he's playing. So he really, like, kind of out of nowhere, really lost his cool for like a second, because you don't. I agree with you. He has a cool vibe that entire time, but man, there was like some racial tension there.
Well, but like Justified. Have you watched Justified?
I have watched Justified.
There's a darkness in him in Justified.
Sure. I don't think he was very much like, or at least most of it I remember. He was very like kind of cool and collected, but then the anger was also in how subtle it was.
Right.
Like that's where the fear came from. He was straight up in those guys' face. But I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that was also like a real good character choice, I think.
That's a Seth Bullock thing from Deadwood also. Seth Bullock was really reserved, really cool, but when it came, he just had that little short fuse, and once it was lit, it was over.
It was
you know what I mean? And so I kind of got that same vibe from him, and I enjoy that. And you're right, that's a good call on the Tusken Raider thing, because that's exactly what it seems like. Is that there's a,
But I think that's the feeling they're trying to give you, is that they have that such tension that it's really when they're coming together to fight the beast, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I actually kind of got giddy when I saw their like caravan going, and it was like the people from the town and the Tusken Raiders going to the cave, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Speaking of which, did you love or hate that creature, the dragon?
I loved
think
it.
they
I
called
loved it.
He was terrifying.
I thought, you know, I like how it's giving us parts of the Star Wars universe that we had no idea about before.
Totally, because there was something I really, really enjoyed. Because in the back of our heads, since Return of the Jedi, we are like Sarlacc pits, bad news. Like the
Right.
Sarlaccs are the worst. And then when we get to this cave, and they say, "Oh, it's an abandoned. He's living in an abandoned Sarlacc pit." And then I think it's Timothy Oliphant's character who's like, I've lived on Tatooine all my life. There is no such thing as an abandoned Sarlacc pit. And then he's like, there is if he ate it. And I'm like, ooh. It's like, oh, this guy's bad news.
And like, the way he hit the town, the way he was attacking everybody. I mean, that was like, it was legit scary and terrifying and fun at the same time.
Those
because
poor banthas.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. They got such personalities, you know what I mean? They're just used for hairy bait.
Especially that one covered in the bombs.
Yeah.
Which I thought his whole like, do me a favor, take care of the child. I thought that was really out of character, because I'm like, you wouldn't sacrifice yourself this early on. You know what I mean? Like, I think he
but he doesn't know he's in a show.
Well, sure. I will say, I'm not saying it from a show point of view. I just don't think, I think he would be more like, I would almost rather he would have said, if this doesn't work, take care of the child. He said it as if like, I'm sacrificing myself. So us as the audience can go, no. But of course, he like flew out of there with such ease. Segue. I love that he has a jetpack now.
Well, didn't he always have a jetpack?
No, remember he gets it at the end of season 1, and he's like, I finally have one, and he just uses it to like fly Baby Yoda to them right at the end. And I'm like, well, I guess that's all we're gonna get to see it until season 2, and he's legitimately using the jetpack.
Very handy. Came in very handy in this episode.
Absolutely. Something we haven't talked about yet that is related to Timothy Oliphant's character. How do you feel about him having Boba Fett's armor?
Is that Boba Fett's armor? Because that was in the stomach of a Sarlacc.
And so maybe you didn't recognize him. But
that was him? Was that him?
That guy at the end is Boba Fett.
No.
Unfortunately, I know, because I know what the actor looks like who has been voicing Boba Fett.
He was also Jango Fett.
Yeah, Jango Fett's dead.
So is Boba Fett.
Jango Fett got his head cut off, and they've been trying to say for years that Boba Fett could still be alive.
Boba Fett got eaten.
I'm telling you, dude, he's Boba Fett.
Okay. But then why did the little dudes end up with his armor?
Look, I don't know, but regardless, I'm upset that it's Boba Fett because I hate Boba Fett.
Why do you hate Boba Fett?
Because he's boring. He's a character who has done nothing for the Star Wars franchise except be a cool-looking guy in the background. And then, and I've said this before on the podcast, he was killed by a blind man. He was!
Okay. All right.
I mean, sure, the blind man was Han Solo, but he literally goes, Boba Fett, where? Turns, hits the back of his jetpack, and he goes flying off into the Sarlacc pit. And this cool badass that we've known for the past 2.5 movies who has done nothing.
If he's such a badass, why did he die like a Three Stooges character?
Thank you. Everybody loves Boba Fett. They're like, oh, he's so cool. He's so badass. He has done nothing in the entire Star Wars universe.
Okay.
Maybe other than books, but...
All right. Fair enough. I think it's cool. I don't...
It is.
Are we sure it's not? Are we sure it's not just a clone?
I'm positive it's Boba. Hey, if it's a clone, I would much rather be. Here's my pessimist mentality coming out. I think it's Boba Fett. I'll be happy if I'm right, but I'm also gonna be upset. If it turns out just to be a clone, I'll be happy that I'm wrong.
Because all of the clones were clones of Jango Fett.
Yeah.
So they would all look like him.
Yeah. They
So
actually delve into that a little bit into the Clone Wars and Rebels Star Wars series, where in Rebels you actually meet a band of like clones that are still alive, and they're all old men, traveling in one of those walkers from the Clone Wars, and they're like traveling in a walker, and they're all a bunch of old men, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and I loved that stuff. So if it turns out that it's just a clone, sure, fine with me. Somebody's gonna say in the comments or something that technically Boba Fett is a clone, and I'm gonna go, get out of here. I don't care. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking specifically some random clone or Boba Fett, and I promise you this is Boba Fett, and I'm not happy about it.
I did like though that there was a Mandalorian on the planet, and the information was good.
Oh, you mean that it was Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Sure,
Or
yeah, totally.
like,
But I think the information does come from the fact that there's a guy roaming wearing Mandalorian armor.
I don't think so. See, I think that's the
That
fake handoff.
Oh, okay. Our Mando is gonna be like, oh damn, the information was wrong. But in the background, Boba Fett's like following him.
Right.
That'd be cool.
The us thinking that somebody was wrong because there's armor there is the play action fake, and there actually being a Mandalorian there is the pass.
Oh, okay. I did really like that. Just little things that keep connecting the Star Wars universe that's so cool. Timothy Oliphant's speeder bike was a bunch of pod racer parts put together. I was like, that's awesome, because just keep up the Tatooine shit going, man.
Another thing that was cool was the Mando's speeder bike was just a chopper, like an old school Easy Rider chopper.
Well, was it not the same one from
it was
from Endor?
Yeah, it was like Sons of Anakin. Tatooine.
Sons of Anakin. No, I do like that. They're doing really well with the world building. Also, we really, just right in the beginning, we get a real sense of Mando's change of character when he shows up to the that one lady from season 1. I forget her name. Her garage. Yeah. And he shows up and she's like, no droids. He doesn't like droids. And he's like, they might as well give it a once over. And I'm like, he's getting a change of heart. Like,
he's softening because he's become a father.
Baby Yoda has softened him, and I love it.
You know what? This would be such a fantastic video game.
Mandalorian?
Oh, yeah.
Well, remember, like, they were going to do, like, 1313 and a bunch of... There was a ton of really cool, clever Star Wars video game projects in the works, and they were all scrapped when Disney bought Star Wars.
But this, you could do this like Red Dead Redemption. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And you got the speeder bike, and, you know, there can be places that you keep the child if you want it to be safe, so you can go out and do a mission, or, you know, I mean, just like all kinds of cool stuff.
Side note, anytime that he left Baby Yoda anywhere that wasn't, like, strapped to his waist, I was really upset.
I was really uncomfortable. Absolutely.
Like, him leaving him on the bike when he goes into the bar, I was like, what are you doing? And of course he just followed him in, but I was like, oh, good. My son is okay.
It's like when he was at the fight and he just kicked the egg.
I thought that was really funny. I really liked the joke of, like, when all the guys had the guns on him, and he's like, says something like, give me the information and I won't kill you all, and then Baby Yoda, like, presses a button and it closes in on him. He's like, oh shit, stuff's happening. Also, the Gamora guards, the pig guys, fighting in the ring. Just give me little bits of Star Wars just sprinkled here and there as you're giving me new stuff, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
It's the little bits of nostalgia that I like, not when you make the entire plot nostalgia.
Absolutely. And they've done such a great job of not only world building, but the story that's being told is fantastic.
So good. And honestly, I couldn't smile more, maybe other than when I actually saw that it was Boba Fett, but on the final shot where you see both of the two sons of Tatooine setting as he is riding away on the bike. I was like, that's how it's got to end.
Yeah.
Ah, so good. Anyways, so this has been our quick discussion of episode 1 of season 2, chapter 9, The Marshal. Timothy Oliphant, so happy he was in it, and honestly, I'm excited to see where they go from here. I hope Timothy Oliphant keeps coming back.
Dude, you know, and I got to give this series credit for their level of guest star.
Yeah.
Whether it's Nick Nolte or
Mm-hmm.
Bill Burr or
Totally.
Timothy Oliphant, they have just nailed it.
Which I think they've said that Bill Burr's gonna be in season 2.
Good, because he was awesome.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, like I feel like what we are seeing, and this is why I think the show could go on forever. I feel like what we are seeing is a show where he is making these connections on so many different planets that when some random guy, you know how we come halfway through the Western hero story and some guy's like, I thought I told you never to come to this town again.
Mm.
That we're getting, but we're actually seeing the story leading up to it. So I bet you in like a season and a half, Timothy Oliphant's gonna come back up like, Mando, is that you? And we're just gonna be cheering because it's him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think they're
Yep.
doing a really good job setting that up. Just even him coming to that lady's garage, I was like, oh yeah, I loved that episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But,
Absolutely.
all right, we're gonna keep this up, or at least try to. So next week, please listen in for Mandalorian season 2, episode 2. Hope you guys are following along and watching it with us. I love it. I love it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars forever, but not too much. All right, that's gonna do it for this week. How you feeling, Tank?
I felt great, man.
Yeah.
Good job.
You too, my friend. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. No Talking During the Movies on YouTube. No Talking During the Movies on Instagram, where we post occasional updates on what we will talk about and what we did talk about. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I am your co-host and fun enthusiast, Tank.
Those are always so slow. All right, whatever. Bye.